Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you the quick review of the new Sigma 24-70mm F2.8 DN, meaning this is designed for mirrorless, and it's from their Art series. This lens is specifically, purposely designed for Sony FE, where I'm reviewing it, also for Leica L, available there as well. Now, if you want to see all of the nitty-gritty, the details about the performance and the build and the design of the lens, I recommend that you take a look at the thorough review, particularly if you're interested in purchasing this lens. It will give you a lot more information to help you to make an educated decision. If you just want the overview, however, this is the review for you today in the quick review. So this, of course, is a very welcome addition to the 14 to 24mm f2.8 art that they've already released, a wide angle. This gives us the standard zoom, with a wide aperture of f2.8. And the hope is, of course, that they're going to follow this up with some kind of 70 to 200 variant to give us kind of the trinity or trilogy of wide aperture zoom lenses that are kind of the bread and butter for those that do either professional work, weddings, events, portrait type work, and also those that are looking for just a higher grade of performance even for their amateur type work. And so obviously very welcome, and a welcome counterpart to the twice as expensive Sony 24 to 70mm G Master lens. And when I say twice as expensive, that's literally true. This lens comes in to the market at $1,099 US. That compares to $2,199 for the Sony FE version. And so it is half as much and offers almost all of what the GM lens does. When it comes to the build, we have a very robust build and design here. It is fractionally longer than what the Sony EF equivalent lens was, but it is somewhat lighter, a couple hundred grams lighter. And fortunately here, it's about 50 or 60 grams lighter than the G Master. It also is a little bit shorter than the G Master lens, 6 or 7 millimeters. And so while you're not having a huge size savings here, it is a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter, and that's obviously a helpful thing. At the same time, it does come with a thorough amount of weather sealing, gasket at the lens mount, a coating on the front element to help to resist dust and moisture. It also has about 8 different seal points, along the various rings, along the switches, and throughout the design. And so you get a professional grade of build, and it feels pro grade. It feels definitely a step up from, say, the Tamron 28 to 75mm. It also has a little bit more in terms of feature set. We have got an AF/MF switch. We have got the focus hold button, and so far the two Sigma zooms are the only lens that I've seen outside of also a prime lens that they've released to have the focus hold button, which previously had been just something that I had seen on Sony branded lenses. There's also a zoom lock here that, while the lens doesn't exhibit zoom creep, in terms of the just natural forces of it, I have found, of course, when you're out hiking and maybe you're brushing on that zoom ring, that the zoom lock is something that is useful to have. When it comes to the actual zoom ring here, it works fairly smoothly, a little bit heavy on the damping side, but it works fairly well. I do find that with a wider lens like this, it terminates in an 82mm front filter thread, so it is wider. When it's mounted on the camera body, you don't have a lot of room between your knuckles and the actual lens itself. So, that's kind of one negative I can point to there. The focus spring, it is focused by wire, but it works quite well. In terms of the autofocus performance, I found autofocus performance to be very good. And so it focuses quickly, it focuses quietly, and it focuses accurately, particularly when you're using things like IAF, either for humans or pets. I got a perfect performance, not one missed shot over the course of my review. The only focus liability that I ran into is that when trying to shoot up close, I found that a lot of times the lens was just reluctant to focus closely. And so that is, kind of the area that sometimes separates on Sony. I found the best lenses from the lenses that maybe need a firmware update, and that's in that really close focus capability. And so there were some areas where I just found the lens balky to focus where I wanted it to. The Tamron 28 to 75 was similar. When it came out, there was a firmware update that came that fixed that problem. I see no reason why Sigma couldn't do the same here. But overall, my autofocus performance was good. It focused well also in low light situations, and even in near dark conditions, it locked on quite quickly and accurately. And so, definitely more good than bad when it came to that. When it comes to the image quality performance, image quality is actually really strong. There is some pronounced barrel distortion at 24 millimeters, and then there are more mild levels of pincushion distortion throughout the rest of the range. There is definitely some vignette that persists throughout the zoom range, so you'll just have to watch out for that. Fortunately, it will be corrected in camera for either JPEGs or video. There's not yet a profile in at least the Adobe products that I use for software for correction. I'm sure that will come down the road. Beyond that, it has very, very good performance. I found when comparing it to the Tamron, which is very popular, that the Tamron had similar levels of performance in the center of the frame. The Sigma sometimes had a little bit of an edge out at the corner, the periphery of the frame. At 50 millimeters was the place where the Tamron was strongest versus the Sigma. The Sigma was stronger at 70 versus 75 millimeters, and that was actually the most noticeable difference between the two lenses. The Sigma offered the better performance there. I was consistently impressed with the amount of detail I got in images across the frame. Contrast was good. Color performance was good as well. This is a very strong lens optically. The biggest drawback that I found is that it is somewhat flare prone, and particularly when panning across the sun, there's definitely a lot of ghosting artifacts that came through there, and so that is something that you might want to watch out for. It is the one kind of serious liability that I saw with the lens. I view two ways of looking at this lens. Those of you that are looking for small and light and don't mind that the Tamron is 28 instead of 24 millimeters, the Tamron might be a better choice for you, because if you're working off of a gimbal or your weight matters in your situation, it is several hundred grams heavier, and you might notice that. It is also much bulkier when it comes to fitting into storage, for the simple case that it is a wider lens in diameter, and the lens hood itself is also considerably wider. And so at the end of the day, it's a fairly big footprint right there. But if size is not so much of an issue, the fact that it does go to 24 millimeters, I would prefer the 4 extra millimeters on the wide end than I do the 5 millimeters on the long end. And it's in some situations you can always crop in to get closer. You don't always have the option of stepping back further, and so it is very valuable when it comes to that. The second way to look at this is if you're considering a 24 to 70 millimeter and you're comparing the Sigma to the GM lens. The GM lens, which I have reviewed, has very few advantages that I can perceive compared to the Sigma, and it's hard to justify spending twice as much for it. And so I think Sigma has done a good job of positioning this lens where it needs to be, to where it is going to be attractive to people when it comes to the price to performance ratio. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you look in the description down below, there is linkage to a full text review if you want to go get more information. Linkage also to my image gallery if you want to look at some photos. Beyond that, there is also linkage there to follow me on social media, to become a patron, or to sign up for my newsletter. And if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.